Got it. I rewrote every sentence from that first part in a clear, first-person conversational voice. Simple American man. I kept the facts, expanded slightly where helpful, and made it AI-friendly for narration. Here's the rewritten version. My fiancée told me she would be working late that night. About an hour after that, one of her coworkers accidentally posted a group photo with her sitting on his lap. I saved the picture without making a scene. That night, I forwarded the image to HR. What happened next was something else. Unforgettable. At 7:15 p.m. on a Tuesday, I got a text from my fiancée, Megan. Hey babe, gonna be super late tonight. We're all hands on deck trying to hit the quarterly deadline. Don't wait up for me. So there I was on the couch with a book. I replied simply, no problem, work hard. About an hour and a half later, I was scrolling through Instagram to kill time before bed. That's when I found it. It wasn't on Megan's account. It was posted by a junior marketing guy named Tyler, the type who posts everything. He'd uploaded a blurry group shot of 10 people crammed into a booth at a trendy downtown bar. His caption said, Dane crushed, team celebration. Dead center of that smiling, messy group was Megan. She was laughing, clutching a cocktail, and perched on the lap of her boss, a senior manager named Alex. He had his arm around her waist and his hand was resting awkwardly high on her side. They looked way too comfortable, like this wasn't a one-off. I stared at that photo for a full minute. My heart didn't pound, and my stomach didn't flip. Instead, I felt a weird calm, the kind you get when a long simmering suspicion finally shows up with a timestamp and location. That vague doubt I'd been carrying for months had just been nailed down. I didn't explode or throw my phone. I pressed and saved the image to my camera roll. Then I uploaded it to a secure cloud. After that, I backed it up to an encrypted external drive. In my world, you protect your evidence first. Megan thought she'd just been at a team party. She had no clue she was now the focus of an internal inquiry. And I was about to become the most relentless investigator she could imagine. Let's be clear. I'm not soft. I'm not someone who gets walked over. I run corporate compliance at a Fortune 500 company. Sounds dull, and most days it is, but my career rests on one idea. Rules matter. I write the code of conduct. I investigate when people break it, and I recommend firing anyone who thinks the rules don't apply to them. My life is basically policies, procedures, and the certainty that actions have consequences. I met Megan 2 years earlier at a company mixer. We work for the same big tech firm, but in different divisions. She's in marketing, bright presentations, questionable expense reports, the whole thing. I'm in compliance, the department people whisper about. She was chaos. I was order. I thought she was interesting. I saw her as a personal project, someone operating well outside acceptable lines. I honestly believed I could help her become more stable and principled. But our relationship wasn't a business deal. In my head, it was more like rehabilitation. I missed the fact that she didn't want fixing. She wanted a sponsor. I wasn't some pushover. For 2 years, I set clear boundaries. We never mixed our money. The house I lived in was mine, bought before we met. I didn't cover her bills. She had a salary and was responsible for herself. My role was to give her a steady home and be a partner who I thought could guide her. I was wrong. I hadn't been helping her grow. I'd been giving her a safe base to run her own dishonest moves from. That photo wasn't only a personal betrayal. It was a professional violation. By sitting on her boss's lap, she wasn't only cheating on me. She was an employee publicly behaving inappropriately with her direct superior. It violated at least 4 parts of the company code of conduct, the same code I wrote. She thought she was hiding an affair from her fiancé. She had no idea she was jeopardizing her career with the man who held sway over her professional future. After securing the evidence, I went into my home office. I opened a new encrypted file on my server. I labeled it Case File M. Jenkins v. Avance. Then I created an anonymous email account. From that address, I wrote a formal ethics complaint. It was clinical, professional, and sharp. I cited the exact policy violations: fraternization, conflict of interest, unprofessional conduct, and misuse of company resources. Because I suspected this would hit Alex's expense report, I attached the photo as Exhibit A. Then I sent the complaint straight to the one person whose job it is to take this seriously: the head of HR. The investigation was officially underway, and the two people involved didn't suspect a thing. Update 1. The morning after I filed the complaint was a lesson in keeping up appearances. Megan came home around 2 a.m., smelling like booze and cheap perfume. She tiptoed in assuming I was asleep. I was awake, staring at the ceiling and planning my next moves. In the morning, she was a little hungover but otherwise her usual bubbly self. "Oh my God, last night was insane," she said while pouring coffee. "We were at the office until midnight. Alex is such a slave driver." I just nodded, keeping my face casual and supportive. "Sounds rough," I said. "Make sure he expenses you a good lunch for all that overtime." This was the heart of my plan. Act completely normal. An investigation works best when the subjects don't know they're watched. I needed her to keep living like nothing was wrong so she'd keep making mistakes. Our HR department is a precise, scary machine. They don't play games. I knew my anonymous complaint, supported by the photo, would trigger a fast, high-priority probe. I also knew they'd handle it discreetly at first. My role in compliance gives me insider knowledge of how these things move. I don't directly work with HR on these cases to avoid conflicts, but I know the playbook. They'd start by quietly pulling records. Emails, instant messages, expense reports, travel logs, even keycard access data. They'd build the case before interviewing anyone. And I was confident they'd find more, because I'd spent 6 months watching a pattern of behavior that was, at best, deeply unprofessional. If you want, I can continue rewriting the next part the same way, sentence by sentence, first person, conversational, and AI-friendly. I hadn't acted on what I'd noticed before because, back then, I told myself it was personal. But now it wasn't just personal anymore, it was a compliance issue. I'd already seen the late-night Uber receipts showing rides from the office to her apartment before she moved in with me. All of them charged to Alex's corporate card. I'd noticed the restaurant tabs labeled team lunches that were really just the two of them, and always at places that looked a little too romantic for a boss and his subordinate. And one time, when I used her laptop to print something, I stumbled across messages from Alex that were so out of line they would have made a sailor blush. I hadn't saved that evidence at the time. That was my mistake and one I intended to fix. My role now was to become a second anonymous whistleblower, someone quietly feeding HR the exact evidence they needed without ever connecting it back to me. That weekend, while Megan was off at brunch with her equally terrible friends, I started phase 2 of my plan. I went into our home office and fired up her personal laptop, the one she never even bothered to password protect. Within 10 minutes, I had what I was looking for. The chat logs with Alex were still right there, practically gift-wrapped. Pages of incriminating conversations, flirtatious lines, inside jokes, and the most damning part, Alex promising her a promotion she wasn't remotely qualified for, all in exchange for her loyalty. I snapped high-resolution photos of the screen with my phone. I didn't dare download the files directly. That would have left a digital trail. The photos, though, were crystal clear proof, undeniable evidence of a quid pro quo arrangement. This wasn't just about her giggling on his lap at a bar. This was a senior manager blatantly abusing his position. I didn't stop there. I dug through the shared photo album on our cloud account. Tucked away in a folder she assumed I never looked at were more pictures from company events. And in nearly every one, she and Alex were standing a little too close, looking just a little too familiar. I saved those too. Then I pulled it all together into a second dossier. This time, I sent it from a brand new anonymous email address straight to the lead HR investigator, the one I knew had officially been assigned the case. The email was short and simple. "I am a colleague of Rachel Porter. I know there is an active investigation underway. Perhaps this will help. I must remain anonymous for fear of retaliation." The trap was now baited, not with scraps, but with an entire buffet of evidence. Megan and Alex thought they were only dealing with one blurry photograph. They had no clue I was about to drop an entire filing cabinet on them. The first sign things were heating up came the following Tuesday. Megan walked through the door pale and unsettled. "The weirdest thing happened today," she said, pouring herself an oversized glass of wine. "HR called me into a meeting, Alex too, separately. They grilled us with all these strange questions about our working relationship, after-hours events, and expense reports. It was intense. I put on my best concerned fiancé look. 'That does sound weird,' I said. 'What's it about?' I have no idea, she lied, avoiding my eyes. Alex thinks somebody has it out for him, trying to stir up trouble. We both told them we've got a great professional relationship. It was nothing. I nodded calmly. I'm sure it is, I said. But inside I was grinning. Lying to HR during a formal investigation is a fireable offense all by itself. Everything was falling neatly into place. She thought she was venting to her safe harbor. She didn't realize she was confessing her own career suicide to the man who'd pulled the trigger. Update 2. The week after those HR interviews played out like a slow-motion car wreck. Megan and Alex had made the single worst mistake possible. They lied. And not only did they lie, they told the exact same lies. Their stories were now locked together. It was like they were standing on a trapdoor, hand in hand, while I was the one holding the lever. The HR investigator assigned to the case was Karen. Sharp, no nonsense, and impossible to fool. Now she had their official statements on record, claims of a purely professional relationship. And I knew those statements were about to be shredded by the evidence I'd supplied. The next logical step in the HR playbook would be a forensic audit of their corporate accounts. That was my territory. I knew exactly what Karen would be searching for, and I was more than happy to give her a map. So on Wednesday, I sent a third, final anonymous email. This one was more technical. I pointed her to specific dates and specific expense reports filed by Alex. I highlighted a dinner claimed as a team meeting that couldn't have happened, because Megan and I were at a family event that night. I flagged a hotel bill from a business trip to a city where the company had 0 clients. A trip I knew Megan had tagged along on for her friend's bachelorette party. This was the kill shot. It wasn't just about flirty messages or a compromising photo anymore. Now it was a clear, traceable pattern of them funneling company money into their affair. Watching Megan that week was almost entertaining. She was wound tight, jittery, snapping at small things, and glued to her phone as she messaged Alex nonstop. She was scrambling to keep her story straight, patching leaks in a ship already sinking fast. And the audacity. She actually complained to me about how stressful it all was. This HR thing is a nightmare, she moaned one evening. It's so distracting. I can't focus on work. And Alex is acting really weird about it. You just have to tell the truth, I told her, locking eyes with her. As long as you're honest, you've got nothing to worry about. That's what I always say in my compliance trainings. The flicker of panic on her face in that moment was absolutely priceless. The hammer finally came down on a Friday. It was a perfect sunny afternoon, and I was sitting in my office reviewing a draft of our updated anti-corruption policy when the company-wide email hit my inbox. It was the kind of cold, formal message you only see when something big has gone down. It came straight from the head of marketing. Daniel Cross is no longer with the company. Effective immediately, we wish him the best in his future endeavors. That was it. No fanfare, no explanation, just the classic corporate send-off. And I knew exactly what that line meant. Best in his future endeavors is HR code for he was fired for cause, and we can't legally give you the dirty details. Alex was done. And Megan's fate? I knew hers would be decided soon after. That evening I went home, poured myself a stiff drink, and waited. 2 hours later, the front door opened. Megan walked in carrying a small cardboard box, the kind you only use to clear out a desk. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen from crying. She didn't even speak at first, just shuffled to the couch and sat, staring blankly into space. Rough day? I asked, letting just enough fake sympathy drip from my voice. She finally looked up at me. They fired Alex, she whispered. Then they called me in right after. They showed me everything, the photo, the chats, the expense reports, even the hotel bill. Her eyes filled and the tears started again, slow and broken. They know we lied. They suspended me without pay. Termination is coming. I let the silence hang heavy, letting her stew in the ruins she had made. After a long pause, I stood, walked to the coffee table, and set down a single printed photo face-up. It was the picture, her perched on Alex's lap. Her head snapped up. She looked at the photo, then at me. And in that instant, I saw the truth hit her like a freight train. It was you, she whispered. The anonymous complaint. It was you. I didn't answer. I just took a slow sip of my drink and let the moment stretch. Final update. That confrontation wasn't the screaming match she probably expected. My revenge was never about being loud. It was about being precise, about being right. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why would you do this to me?" I finally sat across from her, calm and steady, as if I were presiding over a disciplinary hearing. "Let me explain it in terms you'll understand," I said. "We work for a company with a code of conduct. Rules that we all agree to live by. That's the foundation of a safe, fair, and ethical workplace." I leaned forward. "You didn't just cheat on me, Megan. You broke those rules. You had an inappropriate relationship with your direct boss. You helped falsify expense reports. And when HR questioned you, you lied. That's perjury in a corporate investigation." She just stared, stunned, as if the thought had never crossed her mind that her personal betrayal had professional consequences. "I'm the senior director of corporate compliance," I went on. "My entire career is built on enforcing those rules, the very ones you trampled. You mocked me for being boring, for being rigid. But that so-called rigidity is the backbone that keeps the whole company from collapsing. This is what I believe in. This is who I am." I tapped the photo on the table. "So when I saw this, I didn't just see my fiancée on another man's lap. I saw a threat to the system I am sworn to protect. I saw a compliance failure. And I did what I am obligated to do. I reported it." "You destroyed my life over a rulebook," she cried. "No," I said, standing tall. "You destroyed your life because you have no integrity. You thought you could live in a world without rules, without consequences. You thought you could have the stability I gave you at home while breaking every rule at work. You didn't understand that, for me, those worlds are one and the same. My personal life and my professional life both live under the same code of conduct. You broke both. And now you're facing the consequences." I walked to the front door and opened it wide. "Your job is gone. Our engagement is over. Your place in this house is finished. I've packed you a suitcase with a few days' worth of clothes. It's by the door. The rest of your things will be boxed up and shipped to your parents by the end of the week." "Where am I supposed to go?" she cried. "That's a logistical issue outside my department," I said flatly. "Goodbye, Megan." I left her sitting on the couch and took a long walk. When I came back 2 hours later, both she and the suitcase were gone. It's been a month since then. The company finalized her termination. "Alex, word is he's radioactive in the industry now. Everybody knows he was fired for sleeping with a subordinate and cooking the expense reports. That reputation follows you forever." Megan had no choice but to move back in with her parents. Her career in tech is finished. She's broke, unemployed, and her reputation is in ruins. And me? My revenge wasn't some hot-headed outburst. It was a compliance review. I took her disregard for the rules of our relationship and measured it against the hard rules of the real world, the ones I helped write. She was audited and she failed spectacularly. She thought she was just playing a game. What she never realized was that I was the one who wrote the rulebook.